All right. Buffs Nation. Hope you guys are all having a wonderful Sunday. Happy to be back at it again. I've had a wonderful day. I've been doing like some spring cleaning, but for the fall. So I don't know what you call that, but getting our place in order, getting rid of a bunch of stuff that just need to get rid of. And yeah, had a ton of time to just think, to listen. And man, yeah, the 24-hour rule has passed. And I think, y'all were able to kind of see how emotionally I was feeling, man, after blowing a 29-point lead to Stanford. No one ever wants to see that. But got some more thoughts today. Before I get started, I do want to say, I guess I have a little bit of a correction for myself that someone brought up. Somebody brought up in the comments. I apologize, miss, for forgetting your name, but brought up, how I made this comment opening up when I was talking with Rawhide yesterday. And I said something along the lines of like, as the leader of the team, regardless of if it's you or somebody else on your team, you just can't have your merch being posted for sale during the game. And someone came in and said, well, it was posted at another portion of the game. So I do want to correct myself. Was not Shador that did that. My point, I still kind of feel like, I'm fine with you posting all the time, man. People posting their stuff for sale the whole year. I'm just asking that there's like a 3-hour window for 12 days out of the year, man, where you're just taking 3 hours where you're not posting. But at the end of the day, the more I've just had time to think about it and let my emotions cool, it's not a big deal to me. So this is probably going to be the last time I talked about that. But I did want to give myself a slight correction if that information was wrong. And I apologize for that. But that's why we do this channel, so we can all talk and we can learn. But at the end of the day, that's not, I think, an issue that really needs to be talked about. We got plenty of other things to talk about. Am I right? So I'll get into my little Sunday word that I wanted to give, and then I'll just get into some of your questions, and then I'm gonna get back to doing some cleaning. So that will be great. But man, again, Friday was really hard. And I forgot about this. This happened while I was in school here at CU. At homecoming against Oregon State, we also blew a 28-point lead at halftime. And RK from dnvr brought this up, like, this is just buff shit. This happens, but I really appreciated Coach Prime's word today. I think there's this narrative about him that, if you guys follow him, you realize that it's totally false, about him just wanting things instantly, but he says he loves the process. He loves building. And I mean, that's what we're getting here. That's what's happening here. And there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be big bumps in the road, that sometimes you hit that you got to work through. But overall, man, this team is going in such a positive direction. And what I am encouraged about, even though it drives me crazy when we've seen some of these things happen for weeks at a time, is that a lot of what is holding this team back, in my opinion, is just mental mistakes, whether that's from the players or coaching staff, and that can be much more easily corrected in a quicker fashion. Yes. Do we still need some more beef up front? Yes. But we do have the talent to win more games on this schedule. It's just going to depend on if some of these things, click soon enough or not. But this thing is a work in progress. And when you're rebuilding something from scratch where there is no culture, again, like organizational change, I'm sure some of y'all have been through this on your own teams or in your own organizations at work, or even, heck, I mean, with outside that, like clubs or, religious organizations, churches, stuff like that. Sometimes, man, when new leaders come in, there is just a process of change. And when you're bringing in that everybody's new, aside from, some walk-on players and 10 scholarship players, there's just going to be sometimes hurdles in getting everybody on the same page so quickly. And I think we've seen some of that. What I think the positive is that we've been able to still overcome that for 4 wins this year, which has been great. What can be difficult is that, you know, it's not a well-oiled machine off the bat, and this is a bigger challenge than what, in my opinion, than what Coach Prime took over at Jackson State, probably because, you have to bring those guys in. But then again, with the guys he's bringing in, you're able to have some of the more athletic guys over most of your opponents. We haven't had the luxury of having better athletes against all of our opponents, Oregon and USC, but pretty much everybody else that we've had, on our schedule, I feel like we should have beat. It's just the mental aspect and some of the coaching decisions or some of our players, being exposed to the moment for the first time this year. It's been a work in progress. This is still a young team. This is not a team that's filled with a bunch of graduate transfer starters. We have a few, but a handful of the guys that we have, that are playing are still young within their college careers as well. So, again, like taking some time to let the 24-hour rule pass. It. Am I ever going to say a 29-point blown lead is expected? No. But man, having inconsistencies, it is, including the coaching staff. So, and I think that Coach Prime said it the best, that he loves the journey, he loves the process. And that's what's going to make reaching the mountaintop so sweet, is because we've been with this team through thick and thin, through the ups and downs. And I think some people, because maybe they don't like Coach Prime or how they do things or whatever, they want to hold him to a different standard than a lot of these other coaches are held to when they rebuild stuff. So I think you'll see improvement with how Coach Prime coaches, just like we want to see improvement with the other coaches on the staff as well as the players. So overall, man, like the ceiling for this team long term, the ceiling for this program, the ceiling for Coach Prime, it's sky high. And I think that, yes, like this sucks to lose to somebody that you should beat. But, ultimately, when you take a minute to step back and look at these things, there's still a lot of positives for the first 7 games to take in, to enjoy. And we're going to get to a bowl game, y'all. We're going to win some more games. I'm confident that we can beat some of the teams on the schedule, but it's going to require, the big but is, it's going to require us to take some steps in some of these areas where we're beating ourselves. That's really just it. Can we do it? I think so. I'm hoping that the bye week is what gives us time to correct some of those mistakes. So that's where I'm at right now. Again, we're playing 4 out of 5 teams on our schedule that are ranked. Arizona is the only one that's unranked, and they had a very strong performance against Wazoo. But all that to say, anybody in the Pac-12 can beat each other on any Saturday right now. That's just where it's at. If we can just play, again, I sound like a broken record. If we can just play, 4 quarters of football how we normally play in 2 quarters throughout the game, it's just about that consistency, getting there. We can make some noise here to finish out the season. That is for sure. And again, Coach Prime has said it. This is just the baseline. Get me while you can. We're going to bring in another fantastic recruiting class. I mean, the guys that we already have committed coming in here, again, it's this year in 2024. It's not going to be a class of 30 freshmen coming in here. It's probably going to be 15, 16, 17 guys max, and then another 20 plus guys coming through the portal. I think we're going to get, compared to some of the guys who I've loved, seeing them play, some guys that are maybe coming up from the G5 level to start here, or they're coming up from the FCS level to start here. I think with this transfer portal period, you're going to see some guys come that are starting at the Power 5 level because the attention, because of what is happening here. the staff that we're building, the culture that we're building. This is a great culture, where you are treated in a professional manner and the expectations are high. It will prepare you for the NFL, and you're going to be on national TV in the Big 12 most of the weeks. Moving forward, once we get into that conference. And so, the NIL money, our collective's continuing to grow. The intention on the program is huge. And again, this is just the baseline. Everything is going to be better as this thing has more time to marinate. You know what I'm saying? So I guess that's where I'll end my little Sunday word is that, like things are still in such a positive direction. And that's why I don't want fans to take this for granted. I think that was, some of the fans, it really did frustrate me again, going through what so many of us have been through for the last 20 years or so to see fans leaving in the third quarter while we're up. it I know it's family weekend. I know it's a late time game. But the fact that you have people leaving in the third quarter, it just it makes me feel like, guys, we cannot be taking this for granted. Don't you remember like how miserable some of these other games were? Even just a year ago. Like, let's get to it. I think Barstool was tweeting, like, don't you remember like being down 42 to nothing at halftime at home? you know, and we're spending all this money, whether it's we have season tickets or buying out the secondary market. We're spending a ton of money to come to these games, and we're leaving in the third quarter because it's a boring game, or maybe it's a little too chilly, something like that. That is the one thing that I want us to keep perspective of if you are going to the games, if you have tickets, is to just be there, man. Enjoy the experience. Even though it was a terrible comeback, that we saw by Stanford that I was there in the stands for. I'm glad I stayed for the whole time, you know. And again, there's been plenty other games that I have been to, in the past where it was perfectly reasonable to leave, at halftime or whatever. Um, I just don't want us to lose sight of what is being built here, and we need to support what is going on. We need to support the program. We need to support these athletes. Again, so many of them could have chosen to go to other schools. Coach Prime could have chosen to go to another school. He didn't have to come here. And that's, I think that's my biggest thing, of just a challenge for people coming out to the games. Like, regardless of what it feels like, let's let's have that atmosphere that we had at the spring game, where it was miserable weather, it was below 30 degrees, but we had a packed out stadium and we're supporting these gentlemen. And just because Stanford isn't an opponent that you normally get up for, like USC or Nebraska or Colorado State, um, it doesn't mean that we should be tuning out early. Because I think, if the crowd, if we stand behind our guys, is if we're there, maybe we help, you know, see you kind of get back into it, and get that victory and stop the bleeding. But it was just a total collapse on all fronts. Like I said, the PA guy, that needs to change. And our fans, as fans, we got to look ourselves in the mirror and, you know, ask, what did we do? Did you stay there and support this team, or did you leave in the third quarter when it was a 2-score game? All right. So let me go ahead and get to some of your comments. I appreciate you guys as always. But I think, like, throughout this week, again, getting into the bye week, I'll probably take a look at just, going through, talking about a lot of the things that I've enjoyed about these first 7 games, and of course the areas of improvement, all of that. But nonetheless, this season is fun. I don't want you guys to lose sight that being a college football fan, being a fan of this, um, it is fun. And if something's just going to ruin your life or whatever, Don't got time for that, man. Get outside, enjoy things, clean, have perspective. This thing is going in the right direction. Man Young, thank you for being in here, man. I appreciate you as always. It's always good to see you. Omega Red, thank you. Stanford, Higa, here, AZ in the house. Appreciate you, man. A lot of people in here as always. Miss Jennifer, thank you. And I love how you guys say hello um, to each other in the chat, man. It's like we're one family. Chicago Chubbs, Sean Lewis needs to be fired. Brett B needs his job back. I mean, again, you want to go look at the Jackson State offense last year and that whole thing, like there's going to be holes to pick with any offensive coordinator. There is, issues with all of our coaches when we're looking at how we lost that game, no doubt. But overall, this offense has been the best thing I've watched at CU in my life. And it's only going to get better as there is continuity. So the only thing that I'll say right now is that I think something that probably needs a change, or more people brought in to some extent, because we haven't seen those flashes. We haven't seen flashes of success, is just the special teams. Like there has to be a philosophy change here at the bye week. And if that doesn't change, there needs to be some serious correction with that. But I'm not going to get too mad about an offense that has clearly been the strongest phase of our game, or the strongest phase of our team right now. There's definitely room for improvement, though. Miss Pleasantly Plump, good to see you as always. Yeah, y'all let me know if you got any chats or any questions. Just send them here in the chat, and I will attempt to get to it. Y'all don't be going too crazy at each other in the chat now. It's Sunday. Come on now. Use Edwards as a receiver until he has enough weight to be a running back. Cliff Mo, this is great, man. Let me get to this after I sip my coffee. By the way, Nuggets open up against the Lakers a week from Tuesday. I'll be at that game. I'm so excited. So, Dylan Edwards. Yeah, we did see some 2-back sets used with him and Hankerson, this past week, which was cool. I don't believe he was targeted in those, which sucks. But I do love the idea of using more motion, flexing him out of the backfield, moving him into the slot or splitting out wide, by the sideline, getting a linebacker matched up against that guy or a slower safety. There's still more that we could be doing with that. Again, though, when everything is new, there's only so much I feel like you can implement. Not to say that shouldn't be done more. But I think all that to say, this offense, just like the other two phases of our team, it's still a work in progress, obviously. All right. But yeah, I would love to see him more used in the receiving game. And I think within the first half, if I remember correctly, we were hitting Dylan Edwards on some of these passes, just straight out of the backfield where he was Shador's like first or second read. I like more of that. Get him the ball in space. The offense moves great when he's given the ball in space. Also, guys, I want to give Sean Lewis credit too, because we've gone away from those stupid inside bubble screens that haven't really worked, over the last couple weeks. Again, my memory could be serving me wrong. So you guys can bring them up, bring it up to me if they still have been used. At the very least, they've been used a lot less frequently. They have moved towards plays that have worked more. Again, it's just about that consistency. We need to run the ball more in the second half. That's clear. And I think he knows it. It was funny, man, seeing the well up with his halftime speech. I don't really know what to make of that, and he's like, starters, do your job so guys can get in the fourth quarter. Again, I don't know if that's normal, typical talk when you're up. But, I did wonder, I'm like, man, did kind of even mentioning that kind of get our guys to like start thinking about just like, man, we got this, rather than just the message should just been like, keep kicking butt, and don't even mention about starters getting in or backups getting in, you know? I don't know. Coach Cav coming in here. Players are athletic, but can they comprehend a complicated defensive scheme? I think the answer has been maybe it's too complicated, right off the bat. Maybe it is something that we just need to play some more simple coverages, man. So we're not having these busted coverages. Again, I think one of the positives that we have seen this team growing throughout the year is our run defense. Our run defense has gotten more stout. We just struggle right now with defending some of the pass plays, which sucks because the secondary coming into this year, I to me, it was the position group I was least worried about. I do think our lack of pass rush up the middle has contributed to our secondary being targeted and being taken advantage of. Yes. Um, but I think, man, once Charles Kelly, and this is kind of true with any defensive coordinator, it's like when you got the athletes up front, any scheme you're going to be running is going to be looking better, right? But I think it is a combination. I'm not one of these guys where it's like it is these guys' fault for why this is happening, or this particular person or coach's fault. I think it's a combination of both. I think we could be doing a better job of scheming for the guys that we got right now. At the same time, I understand that when you don't have a dominant pass rush, is a defense ever really going to look that great? This is probably the defense we're going to have for most of the year. Just got to be eliminating the penalties. BC, man, I appreciate the $10 super chat. That really means a lot. Again, I love doing this. I love getting on here every day, talking to y'all about Buffs football, talking to y'all about Coach Prime, just giving you guys my opinions. Whether I'm up or down, you're going to get my opinion. Just like if we were talking at a bar, a sports bar, or you ran into me at a coffee shop or whatever, we're just going to talk sports. And that's what I really appreciate about the community that we're building here. It's been great. So really means a lot to have you send that in. Thank you so much. It's the highlight of my day. Let's see. JJ Stallworth, who is the leader of this team on offense and defense? Great question. I think no doubt our leader on offense is definitely Shador. And I think, again, it kind of sucks like to see him throw that interception in double overtime. But I think because he's been depended on to win these games every week for us, sometimes that's going to happen, where you make a decision that in retrospect you shouldn't have because you're trying to make that play, because you've been depended on to make that play. And, Shador had some fantastic throws on Friday night. I mean, remember that touchdown throw to Javon Antonio? I mean, man, he put that right there. Fantastic throw. Shador is definitely our leader on offense. Now on defense, I guess it would be Shiloh or Travis. I think Travis really does set the tone with how he plays. And man, it is frustrating, man. Seeing him put his body on the line, get hit hard, man, at the end of the game, and all that, man. For both him and Shador, man, these guys are balling out. They have carried this team in so many, different situations. They deserve better than to, have mental mistakes get in the way of their performances. That's how I feel. I don't mean to separate or splinter the team. It is clear to me that these two players are playing at an elite level, and we can't be beating ourselves with penalties and dumb play calls in the second half taken away from these accomplishments. And I think, like, again, this is just my theory because a lot of people have wondered, like, hey, you know, um, what is Coach Prime doing versus not? To me, it really seems like he does give his position coaches and his coordinators autonomy to do what they want to do. But, I think I would like to see him step in a little bit more if he is not. Telling Charles Kelly, dude, stop substituting all the time, man. We do not need to be doing that. We do not need to be substituting all the time. No, because it's leading to these 12 men. And again, these are conversations that I think can easily be had in the bye week if they haven't already been had already. Or just telling Sean Lewis and Shador, guys, be freaking mindful. Snap the ball when there's like 1 or 2 seconds left, not when there's 20 seconds left on the play clock in the second, in these plays in the second half. It's about taking care of business, ensuring the win, getting out of there. What's encouraging is that we're not trying to make a quarterback elite. That isn't. We're not trying, we don't have the Alex Grinch of an offensive coordinator in Sean Lewis. No. Sean Lewis knows offense. He's an above average offensive coordinator. He's not perfect, but guys, there are a ton of worse offensive coordinators. Many, 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 many worse offensive coordinators. It's easy to criticize the play calling because no one ever calls a perfect game. That's absolutely sure. Like, y'all name a coach, an offensive coordinator that you guys have always been pleased with, even if it's not on the Buffs. I can't. Yeah, so I would like to say too to this question, JJ Stalwart, that I would like to see, man, some more intensity, and aggressiveness and anger played from some of our guys on our line. I think we get a little bit more of that on our D line compared to our offensive line. I think Kareem Harden did a great job on Friday. Outside of a few plays, a JUCO guy coming in here, highly recruited by a bunch of Power 5 blue bloods. Him coming here to see you. I don't want to see him leave that lineup, whether it's at the tackle or guard position here against UCLA. The man knows how to play offensive line. The man is an athletic beast. Get him in at guard. That's just how I feel if sy'veon Washington's coming back. Really's coming in here saying, we are winning this UCLA game. Absolutely. That needs to be the message right now. Again, in order to beat UCLA, we just have to play a full game, man. That's really it. We just got to not be dumb. Like, what's great is that this stuff is not rocket science. What's frustrating is that these are the mistakes that just make you want to pull your hair out, man, when it's happening, because this is stuff that will get corrected over time. How much of this stuff gets corrected this year, we're going to find out. But over time, like, the game situation, the game management, all of that is going to improve as this coaching staff and team has more time together. The key, or the thing that we're just wondering about, is how quickly do we see more improvements with this, just like we've seen with the run defense. Tremaine Young, I like that jet sweep that Stanford did about 200 times. Why can't we do stuff like that? Especially, man, like we saw it work against Arizona State, running that jet sweep to Xavier Weaver for that touchdown, on 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 and goal. Again, like, they're just, for the most part, it's like I'm okay with most of the play calls. Like, I like most of the play calls. Again, when you're putting up 40 plus points or whatever it is, you usually like the majority of the play calls. But there's always a section where it's like, why are we doing this specific play in this specific situation? I hate running option plays out of the gun on, 1st and goal and short, 3rd and goal and short, something like that. Again, it was so frustrating for us to run that sort of play inside and then lose a yard or two. And then you guys know what happens, in second overtime. I'm even fine with doing one of those jet sweeps again to Zay. Again, who cares if they know it's coming? If it's executed correctly on our end, we will score. Yeah. Jay Reed, Art, appreciate you, man. That is, again, that's so kind with you guys, of you guys to give another super chat. Like, for real. Thank you for your generosity. It really does mean so much. And you come in here with a great point. People forget that we were up 29 nothing at halftime. The sky isn't falling. Clean up the penalties and you will win this game. Yes, clean up the penalties. We'll fix the mental mistakes. I am convinced. But uh, our team is still learning how to win. A lot of these guys are still learning how to win. This is still a younger college football team. Again, this isn't like our 2016 team where we had a bunch of 4 fifth-year guys, 23 years old, going at it. And that's why we had a big year. Yes, we do have some older guys, but we have a lot of guys here that are playing that are getting time, that are playing substantial football for either their first or second year ever, since they've been in college. This team is learning how to win, and what was encouraging is that we finally saw them get off to a fast start, to start with that intensity. Now they need to learn how to maintain that, to stay engaged, to keep that commitment and focus. I think somebody else said it, and I'll get to it, is like, this loss needed to happen. Yes. And none of these teams, man, that end up being good, it happens overnight where they don't go through BS like this. It's so true. Like, again, living out here in Northwest Denver, I'm thinking about the early Nuggets teams with Murray and Jokic in like 2017, 2018. Like, they lost a game at the end of the regular season to the Trailblazers. Whoever won that game got into the playoffs, man. And that was just an ugly game. They took it within and ran with it. That next year, they allowed that to motivate them to where they did make the playoffs. But then they're having heartbreakers against the Portland Trailblazers. And then you see, as they correct some of these issues, where they're struggling with their slow starts against teams that are better than them at the time, like the Utah Jazz, like the Los Angeles Lakers, where then once they can just play complete focused basketball, once they put it all together, man, now you see how they ran the table this past year, and they're going to be right up there in contention again this year. But, it's a process of learning how to win, learning how to get off to these fast starts, but then not blowing leads, learning how to come back, learning how to not, start out disengaged. So then you're always having to, climb out of an 0-2 hole or something like that. Same thing with this team. It's a young team. It's a new staff. We're all still learning together. It's a new organization. And yeah, like, this was a different type of loss than we had against Oregon. This was a different type of loss than we had against USC. And there are definitely new lessons to learn from this. Again, guys, like, I do not want to stress how bad the football was last year. And when you wipe everything out and have to start new again, to me, it does not matter, where all these guys come from, what the accolades are, whatever. When you're bringing together, 150 new people as part of the program, you're just going to have these ups and downs. Thank you again for your super chat, Jay Reed. Yeah, here was that comment. Keep it moving, Transport LLC. This loss had to happen. Yeah. And all great teams go through this type of BS when they're starting to build. Jonathan Clark, October 1st of this year, 3-1 UFC or UCF was up 35-7 to 1-3 Baylor and lost 36-35. It happens. UCF are not title contenders, so nobody cares. They blew a 28-point lead. Yes. And even though I'm a big fan of Gus Malzahn, again, he was the high school football coach for my brother-in-law in Northwest Arkansas. People don't care because, yeah, it's Gus Malzahn coaching them. And everyone's got an opinion on what's going on here, at CU, right? It's people want to take shots at us, man, when we have our hiccups, and then all of us, of course, man, we want to celebrate when we get those victories. Absolutely right. I love that this team plays with charisma, excitement. They're showboats. They showboat, and they also understand, like, hey, because we're that way, we got to take it. If it comes back to, if it backfires on us and we don't get a victory, we got to dish what we take. And I love how they understand that. I love how they understand that, because, that's just what makes sports fun, in my opinion. Like the showboating, the celebration, all that is awesome. Let's just not get penalties doing it. And I think like one thing is that like we got to learn, just like the Miami Hurricanes dynasty, the refs are going to have a shorter whistle with us because they don't like that. Not all the refs are old whites, as Matt McChesney would say, but that's something that this team, we got to be mindful of. It is completely unfair and is completely biased, but this team is going to be refereed to a different standard than other teams are, just because of who CU is right now. All right. Coach Kev, Prime talks about discipline, but enforces it selectively. I think we saw some instances of this, on Friday. And again, Coach Prime is a coach that he is not a perfect coach. He is going to be learning and growing just like everybody else is on this staff and with this team, And this is something that Rawhide and I talked about yesterday. It's like Omarion Cooper was given no chance to work through his error. Alton McCaskill wasn't given a chance to move through his errors. But then we see other people that are on the field, like Carter, which I love Carter, I'm wearing my Carter jersey. I'm a big Carter Stoutmeyer fan. Like, I think he's having a great freshman year. But he's given kind of that leniency to kind of work through some things, And yeah, I wonder what y'all's opinion is on that. It was a little perplexing because, again, I understand allowing some guys to work through that. Like sometimes you just got to do it. That's why I've wanted to see more of Cormani out there too, because with these young guys, like just let them work through it. But I don't know if we're necessarily always getting that with other position groups. And this might be the case of outside of the secondary, Coach Prime is determining who's getting on the field with the secondary compared to like with the running back room. Maybe that's Flea, maybe that's Sean Lewis, those coaches. I'm wondering what your opinion is on that. But this is again something that I'm speculating on, where it's like if Coach Prime doesn't have if he's not giving his say into the guys he wants out there, I would like to see that happen a little bit more. But again, that's totally speculative on my end. I'm just trying to figure out why we see certain things happening with certain position groups versus others, and that's like the only thing I can think of right now. So let me know your thoughts on that. Man, Jay Reed, you are too generous. Thank you again so much. That really means a lot. Saying here, the fact that people feel the Buffs should win games says a lot about where they are, considering they were 1-11 last season. A Friday night game between two unranked teams got national coverage. See, man, this is the Sunday perspective that we need, man. 1 second. This is absolutely the Sunday perspective that we need. Again, the fact, like, guys, you guys need to realize how fulfilling it is to be in every game we play in this year, outside of the Oregon game. But we went into that game feeling like we could compete. Things just got away from us. But outside of that, man, being in every game this year is not a luxury. And again, that's where I wanted to get back to, is like, if you're spending money to go to these games, like, especially if we're up, do not be leaving the game early. You are taking this whole thing for granted. And that is, again, it's just a huge, like, that gave me more of a sour taste than like actually how I felt leaving the stadium after that. So it was like all you could do was just laugh. All I could do was just laugh at that point. I mean, you saw me on Rawhide stream when I was driving home from the stadium talking about it. But again, like, I don't want us to lose sight of where this really is at right now. We are going to be a force to be reckoned with. This is just a process. But the fact, again, that this team is competitive right now this year, the fact that like we should win games and that is expected, to win more games moving forward, it speaks to the coaching job that is happening here. Yes, it has been big time success and big time errors. The ups and downs, man, it's been crazy, and that's what's made it like easy to identify, what's going on, right? I guess that's all I got to say. But if you're going to the games, guys, do not be leaving early. If we're up in the third quarter, are you kidding me? Stop that. Bobby Long coming in here saying, David, there needs to be changes not only in players but in coaching. And um I will say this too, with coaching, there needs to be um philosophy and strategic things that we're doing coaching that needs to change as well. Do I think there will be some turnover in this staff? Yes. I think there will be. Again, I have a little bit more patience for our offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator because of we're dealing with right now average lines. That's just what we're dealing with. To me, there's no excuse. There's absolutely no excuse for what is going on with special teams. And special teams has not contributed to a win like they have not been a net positive in any of the games we've played so far this year. Maybe Nebraska. Like, I don't think we had a blocked punt or anything like that. But that game essentially was won. Well, I should give them credit. They've had a one net positive game, which was Nebraska. And everything else has been something that the other two phases of our team, offensive defense, have had to overcome. Bad field position, being put in a hole, leaving points on the field with having a blocked field goal or a missed field goal or a blocked punt. That is the area right now. Like, I expected our defense and our offense to have bumps, like, for there to be inconsistencies. Did I expect the offense to be the biggest strength of our team coming into the year? Yes. If you go back and look at my videos over the summer and even in the spring, guys, I was so excited about special teams. I was so thrilled because you guys could hear me say all the time, I am thrilled to watch a special teams unit that has a lot of talent, in the return game, in the kicking game, and with punting. You know, it is inexcusable for what has been happening on special teams. And I know that's ridiculous for me to spend so much time talking about it because it is kind of the afterthought when it comes to so many of these games. But in order to have our chance, to get these wins moving forward, we need special teams to be a net positive. You know, um, that's where I would like to see like a big time coach brought in here, from the special teams aspect of things to like get this unit in order. And I think Coach Prime's going to give all of these position coaches and coordinators, the rest of the year to get it figured out. But I mean, hey, that will not be tolerated. If it is the same thing this year, there's definitely going to be change. But I would like to see most of the offensive and defensive staff stay, and especially the coordinators. See Sean Lewis stay as well as Charles Kelly, because with continuity, getting more of your guys in, everything like that, things are going to continue to look better. There's going to be less mental mistakes. Everybody's going to be able to work together again. There's reasons why, if you're looking at the NFL, for instance, or why CU, has been so bad for over the years. The constant change, the constant turnover with staff, systems, philosophy, all of that, it just contributes to a losing and dysfunctional culture. And that's why, like, I would like to see them stay unless there's some serious issues here in the future, which I don't think we'll see. I think we'll see both better offensive and defensive outputs moving forward. But y'all don't lose sight of the fact that the offensive output, even though it's not been consistent and it could be better, absolutely, it has still been great um, when compared to uh, the rest of college football. Absolutely. All right, let's see what else you got. Scrolling through all these comments. Sorry, guys. Optimistic right here. 17 penalties. You're totally right, man. 17 penalties. Absolutely inexcusable. And my guess is most of those came in the second half, if I remember correctly. Again, we just lost our focus. We lost our composure. And we played um, like a bunch of buffoons, man, in the second half, man. That's really what it is. Just sorry. I never use that word buffoon. Um, we just played like a bunch of idiots, man. That's really what it was. JJ Stallworth. Dave, who do you see taking on leadership roles on defense and offense? Well, again, some of these guys, they're getting their first year of playing time. But I think that you'll see develop into more and more leaders like moving forward in the future. I think you'll see Bishop Thomas and Arden Walker um, become, bigger leaders in this clubhouse. I think you'll see it with Carter as well. Um, I'm trying to think of who else, on the offense. It's hard for me to like right now say on the offensive line because I don't think we have anybody on the offensive line that plays like really nasty right now. And I think sometimes that's why we've seen some inconsistencies. That unit just I wonder if they have like those dogs, I think Kareem Harden could be one of those guys. I need to go back and look at his JUCO tape, again. But I mean, he played with an attitude, and I think hopefully we continue to see him more on the field because we need more of that, regardless of if he's at tackle or guard. I want him on that line. David, I appear to be one sided. You appear to be one sided in your views towards the OC. I don't know what that means with the. I don't know if that's fair. I need you to expand on that a little bit more because I feel like I've been plenty critical of some of the issues that we've seen on offense, especially play calling in certain situations. I haven't loved, and I've talked for weeks here about how I feel like we can be incorporating some more creativity and pre-snap motion into our offenses. Again, though, guys, like I've been a fan of this team. I'm a Broncos fan who has had now what their fourth head coach in 4 years or something just insane like that. Like some people get so trigger happy with the imperfections that we see with coaching that it like, do you guys understand what firing an OC that's averaging in the high 30s or like 40 points a game would do for recruiting after 1 year? Like that is just a ridiculous um thing to think that that is going to do Coach Prime favors in hiring other coaches and assistants in the future, and it's going to do favors in the eyes of recruits. When you see those types of results and you're firing a guy after 1 year after you bought him out and doubled his salary makes no sense. um, Again, it has not been perfect, but I just have a feeling if you guys want this offensive coordinator fired, I just want y'all to be honest with me. Have you been watching this team prior to this year? Yeah, Coach Kev coming into, yeah, don't think Lewis should be fired. He just needs to start talking. Yes, yes. Like the mechanics of his offense are great. Again, I think you could say 80% of these play calls, like I'm a fan of, and I think that's a pretty good ratio for an offensive coordinator because offensive coordinators are going to be the most criticized assistant or coordinating position, coaching position on a staff outside the head coach. Absolutely. Usually that's how it goes. I think right now, special teams said, hold my beer, which I think is really hard to do because I've never seen a special teams unit throughout my life be this inconsistent and this poor with better athletes than what we've had here in Boulder for quite a while. It is inexcusable what we're seeing on special teams. But again, there are some situational things in which the approaches could be different. The play calls in specific situations could be different. But when you're looking at the data, when you're looking at how many points are we putting up, we're putting up enough points to win each week. And I think Darius is coming in here with some perspective as well. This is a different level of football. Yes, Coach Prime has been at Division One football, but this is Power Five, Power Four college football now. There isn't as much as a talent discrepancy now on who you're playing compared to the FCS level. Darius says Prime needs to realize this is the pack and not the HBCU. It's going to take years to get competitive. It does not matter if all your kids come from the portal. They just need time to develop. And I would just correct that and push back a little bit, Darius, on I think Prime realizes that. I think he understands that. I think with the video that he put out today saying, guys, I think you guys forget how much I'm in love with the journey and in love with building and in love with the process of things. So I think rather I would rephrase this to say, I think some fans need to realize this. I think it really is more of a perspective on our end than what's inside the building. I think there is that perspective. That doesn't mean that he's not going to want domination, though. I think he's preaching the right things. King, yes, 29-point lead and you don't run the ball. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it is inexcusable why we weren't running the ball more and we were snapping the ball with like 20 seconds left on the clock. I'm in agreement with you. The second half was inexcusable and it was an organizational failure. But the coaches, I think overall, they should take the brunt of the blame. For that blown lead. Again, the mechanics, how the philosophies of the offense, how Sean Lewis schemes guys open, how like when the offense is firing on all cylinders. Yes, again, the situational stuff, the thinking critically about certain game situations with the play calling is where again is where the criticism is. For me, seems like from you as well. It's like we have to run the ball. We have to run the ball. We got to burn the clock out, get this win, and get home. I'm in 100% agreement with you. It's inexcusable. He needs a stern talking to, but this is a guy that clearly knows how to draw up plays. It's about figuring out when you're going to call certain plays. You guys understand the nuance that I'm getting at here? I'm going to go for a few more minutes here. CPM, St. Louis. Is that what it stands for? No more Friday night games. Friday night should be for high school only. NCAA needs to stop that. I kind of actually like the Friday night games. Maybe I'm in the minority, of opinion with that, but I just don't like the 8 p.m. kickoff times. I don't like that. Hopefully that will change, moving forward. I'm not really sure what the time slots are with, the Big 12 and all that. But the 8 p.m. kickoff starts are just way too late. Bad coaching lost that game. Y'all can spin it how you want. Absolutely, and that's where I opened up with saying that this is going to be this is going to be something that we can learn from. And again, these sorts of things that we're talking about, King, they're much more easily corrected than like needing guys to put on 30, 40 pounds of muscle, right? Like that's the good news. Of course, it's never good that something like this happens. No, 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 no. I mean, you guys saw, my reaction to that. It makes you want to pull out your hair. It makes you want to freaking smoke cigarettes, right? But these things can be corrected much quicker than the portal. Like this game, in my opinion, it still happens the way it does, even if we have another 100 pounds on our offense and defensive lines. Um, because it was the mental aspect of our coaching staff and players like checking out, not being on our game that cost us this game. It wasn't our athletes that cost us this game. We had the athletes to win. We had the players to win at every position, no doubt. It was our brains that cost us this game. Dave, how did this loss affect recruiting? What have you heard? I don't think it affects recruiting that much. Obviously, whenever you lose in a fashion like this, it's not going to look good. And could that be a in consideration for some recruits that it's like I think some head coaches manage the games better than how Coach Prime and the staff manage that game. And should that be a thing certain recruits are considering? Absolutely. I don't I'm not going to put too much stock in like one game affecting like make or break for recruiting. I think what's going to be more impactful is seeing how the staff and the players respond moving forward from a big screw up like this. I think that's going to be have more of a big effect on that. Does that make sense? Um, but certainly it doesn't help. At the best, it's just it's like a neutral, but having a loss like that, it's not going to affect anything positively. But I think, from Rawhide's perspective, and he's brought this up, and I think this is a good point. People will, certain potential transfers or recruits realize, hey, these guys need me at this position and I could come and play because I'm better than all these other guys that they got. Interior linemen, I'm hoping that's the case. Man, we really need some interior linemen. So, um, and I mean the media coverage, the primetime TV slots, like the NIL, like none of that's going away, right? So you want to come and you know uh, be on a pedestal. You want to be have a spotlight in your college career. This is one of the spots to do that right now. So I guess my answer is a little bit nuanced, but I would say that how we respond from getting kicked in the nuts is going to be more important, or rather, kicking ourselves in the nuts, because that's kind of what we did. Yeah, see, so we are supposed to be 5-2. Oh, you know, face orange frowning. Sadly, StreamYard doesn't show the emojis. Um, but yeah, like we should be one win away from bowl eligibility. It freaking sucks. And that just means, man, our road just got a bit tougher, man. It means we need to beat another opponent that the majority of people aren't expecting us to beat. Vegas isn't going to, I doubt we're favored in any game for the rest of this year. Ooh, Cheyenne coming in here. Oh man, this is a great topic. Cheyenne. Hey David, I watched the well off video and was shocked that it was Shador who made the choice to get the ball first. Stanford was clapping. Maybe he didn't understand the rules, college football 101. Yes. And I think again, like sometimes, you got to realize like you got to like have that mistake come back to like punch you in the face to like realize like I can't be doing that again. You can see somebody touch a stove and like get burned. But then it's like, sometimes, man, you just got to make dumb mistakes first, to realize I shouldn't be doing that. And I think that that's the case with this team and getting the ball first in overtime. I understood it. Like, I love the aggressiveness in the with how we took the ball first with Colorado State, because again, the defense wasn't stopping anybody and we had that momentum. We really had that momentum. And Rawhide Media brought this up. He's like, man, we got away with it because it makes no sense. Like, you never see any coaches take the ball first in college overtime, because it, like, you leave the other team at an advantage, because then they understand what they have to do on their drive to win or to tie. And it really plays into their decision making, gives them an advantage. And he was like, I think Coach Prime will realize, and the team will realize that, like, that's not how you do it. Like, we kind of got a little lucky. And that's how I felt going into the Stanford game when overtime hit. I'm like, man, I hope we defer. We go on defense first. And again, like, I don't think Shador like throws that again. Like, it just put us at such a disadvantage, and Stanford knew, being all those geniuses that are pursuing, probably PhDs in all sorts of different fields. Like, they understood, the game strategy with that and why it wasn't a good decision, regardless of if he was told to do that or not. It's like, we have to know now, like, having experienced that we can't be making those decisions with overtime. The only other thing that I can think of to maybe justify why they wanted to go in that direction was, again, the defense wasn't stopping them, and maybe they were just tired, from the end of how the first half or the second half ended. But again, for me, yeah, it was a bad decision, regardless of who was in charge of making that decision. That decision cannot be made anymore, whether it's Coach Prime, Shador, or whoever. It cannot be made more moving forward. Damon, I need to know who you're a fan of. Get your act together, Colorado. See you next year. Well, we are moving in a great direction, man. We are moving in a fantastic direction. So we'll continue to improve. We'll continue to correct mistakes. But man, again, there is a lot of improvement that we've seen with this team moving forward since the first week started. It's just about piecing those things all together at the same time. Let's be clear, guys. This is Shador's team. This is a passing first team. This team will pass the ball 85% of the time. It's just the way it is. And it's been like that since the TCU game. Sort of. We ran the ball. I think it was more like a 66-33 ratio against Arizona State. And then against USC, it was straight up 50-50 on the dot. I think we can be running the ball more. I think we should have been running the ball more. Let me pull up the stats for the Stanford game on what those ratios were, because I had them pulled up here. One second, please. Dude. All righty. Let's go. Team. All right. So team we had. Okay, Colorado had 35 attempts rushing. And they had 47 attempts passing. So not an 85% ratio, definitely more favoring in the passing. Again, when you're playing with such a big lead. And yeah, you can't have, what is that, 12 more passes? Not a terrible ratio, but again, when you're playing with a lead, it should have been again, like I get all excited. I'm a fan. I want to run up the score. I want to put up a bunch of points. I want to see Shador break all the records. I think, you know, that's probably why I'm here talking about this here in my apartment rather than ever being on anybody's coaching staff. We need better from our coaches, not to think like me all the time, like this is a video game, you know? But I think we have seen, again, I think this is a good positive trend with USC, with Arizona State, and with Stanford. We have had 30 plus rushing attempts. That is a good trend. And optimistic. You bring this up. Y'all keep saying run the ball. They tried to do it and then they gained no rushing yards. We still need some more consistency with it. We have run the ball better. Um, the last 3 games. Man, Rawhide, what's up? I appreciate you. Really means a lot to be collaborating with you, of course, throughout all these weeks. And y'all go subscribe to Rawhide Media. He knows his stuff. I love getting on his channel, talking. I love collaborating with him. And yeah, guys, we gotta get him. We gotta get him to 1,000 subs. He deserves way more subs than what he has right now. He's putting out some of the best content here on YouTube when it comes to Coach Prime, when it comes to the Buffs, when it comes to college football. And that's why you see me do so much stuff with him. And he's entertaining as heck, really appreciate the love, man. Means a lot. All right, y'all. Well, I am going to tear it down. I have a Love is Blind season 5 reunion to watch. Terrible season, but I'm a sucker for bad reality TV, so I'm gonna go do that. Finish up my fall/spring cleaning that I'm doing tonight. I will be back with story time with Colin Moore. Saw him on the sidelines trying to keep warm at the game. It was really funny. But I do have a big presentation with my work tomorrow, so I'm not really sure. It's in person, so I won't. Yeah, I'll be kind of out of office tomorrow. So you might not see me to tomorrow morning or tomorrow evening. We'll just see how that goes. But nonetheless, I will be back throughout the week. So appreciate you guys as always. I mean, guys, don't forget the perspective, and when you go through the ups and downs, when you get through the adversity, you overcome it, you grow. It just makes the mountaintop all that much sweeter. Coach Prime and CU Buffs, we will be national champs. Do not forget that. Until next time, y'all, go Buffs.